Hi, I'm Rajbir. Welcome to Conversations with Mentors. We are mentors from IIT Delhi and I'm Bangalore. I4 Mentors Foundation. We are a not for profit. We are starting a cohort soon, and these are conversations with cohort leaders. Hey, hi Shiva. Welcome to the I4 Scale program from I4 Mentors Foundation. Really grateful to you for volunteering to lead the healthcare cohort. The session today is about introducing you to the startups. So I'll start by asking you to first share your experience about healthcare sector itself. I know you have extensive global experience and across different continents. So kindly share that experience and also how you work with some of these stellar startups.
So thank you, Rajbir. And thank you for requesting me to help the healthcare cohort. I'll quickly start with the background. I'm an engineer from IIT BHU and an MBA from IIM Ahmedabad. I have more than 25 years experience in the healthcare space, spread across pharma, payer and provider space, working with large companies like IBM, Satyam, HCL, and also with analytic companies like Aragen. Which primarily delve into chemistry and biological databases in the pharma space. My experience with the startup is essentially with one of the startups which I incubated right from start, Nano Health, where I seed funded them to the company, then went out to the board and then mentored them through their initial setup of actually setting up a company from scratch and understanding the product fit and evolving from a service-led company to developing a product platform and ultimately moving on to a SaaS-driven model. So that's been my primary experience. Okay, how I help them? Essentially, I worked with them initially to understand what kind of customer segments we were looking at, apart from the initial, public health segment, and then worked with them to engage with potential clients. Then led fundraisers for them, structured deals, and went into potential partnerships with them. And finally, now I continue to be on the board of the company as an independent director and also as a de facto CFO. That's been my primary experience with the healthcare sector. The company is called Nano Health, and it is the company's aim is to make sure that everyone is healthy, to keep it safe.
Wow, thank you. That was a great story. You walked through the entire journey right from beginning seed funding and then helping them scale, and then now you're mentoring and on the board. So tell us about what is it that you found in that startup that you believe really helped them scale and succeed, and are there lessons in that journey for other startups?
Very good question, Rajvi. So the first and foremost thing is that I think the founding team, I think that is very important. The what kind of team which is there, are there? They typically, as we know, in every startup, it cannot be an individual-driven entity, right? It has to be a team. So the team has to be, there has to be a dreamer, there has to be an executor, right? And that is something one of the most important things. Second, the idea has to be, even though it may be an idea which is not new, but the idea has to bring something unique from a customer perspective. It has to solve the customer problem, not saying that we have a solution. So it has to solve the customer problem. And the third most important thing is the passion the team brings to the table, because in this journey the most important thing is to take the highs with the lows. So everybody has to be, I think, prepared for that and actually be able to experience that. I think that has been the biggest learning. And one more important thing is to be able to pivot around and make sure that whatever solution that you are giving to the customer, are we in sync with the market, and are we able to make sure that we pivot around and give what the market needs rather than vice versa.
Okay, that's fascinating actually. Just one moment, please. Uninvited interruptions.
Okay, no problems.
Okay. So thanks. I think that was wonderful, Shiva. And you know, when we spoke last time, we talked about the multiple pivots a startup went through. I think that in itself is a
Yes,
huge learning. You know, how you started as a public service healthcare company, and then got
yes,
moved into a product space, a SaaS space. How you moved from a public space into also serving the corporate segments.
right.
There's a lot of learning in that. You know.
Yes,
You want to talk about that because starting from a very small, narrow space, you became almost a comprehensive healthcare company. So, if you could briefly
yes.
cover about the two or three different stages of growth, I think that really helped.
Yes, thank you, Rajbir. So, first and foremost, I think you're right. We did pivot from being purely a service-led company in the public healthcare space to what we are today, which is essentially a comprehensive platform. So, the main thing, the pivot is essentially service by itself is nothing without the technology enabling it. So, which means that you need to have a strong technology enabling platform to drive you to that. That's one. The second thing is, what do you do when once you have technology? A large component of that is the data, right? So and essentially what do you do with the data? So that I think those two things are very crucial because those things. One is the techno. So and there is a lesson in that for future startups is also one is to a, it's a very strong technology platform which is enabling that, and second is what is the actionable thing that you can get out of the data out of that. So what is the slice and dice that you can do with that, and how do you use that for the customer's benefit and hence improve it for the company's valuation. I think these are the most important things, and that's also the reason for the pivot, that first you evolve from a service, then you build the technology which enables that service, and then you use the data which comes through the technology and build on that to provide insights and further solutions for the customer and how it can be used by other segments of the industry.
And how did these pivots happen? What drove you towards these pivots?
So, again, good question. A lot of these pivots were actually driven by customer needs. So, which again, we come back to this again and again, essentially, is that the customer need or the segment need drives your solution. It is not something, so you should, so either A, you should fix in on a perceived customer need or an actual need which is crying out for a solution in the market, or you should first engage with the customer and then find out what they need maybe something else altogether, which is what we found out. We went to them with a solution, and then we found out sometimes the customer may not even know that this is the need. So you have to engage with them and work with them, and then they will. It is actually a matter of an eye opener for them, saying, "Oh, we needed this. Yes, okay." So you have to work with them as partners, and then ensure that you fulfill that need. And that is the most important thing: understanding what the need is and how do you solve that need. And the better you solve the need, the better your chances of success are.
Interesting, very interesting. One of the quotes I remember by Peter Thiel is, "A competition is for losers."
Yes,
So what you're really saying is stay customer centric, and competition will take care of itself. So you really
absolutely,
that's a
absolutely.
that's
One
a
more thing, one more thing is that the healthcare space in India is very large. It's huge, and I have a favorite saying here, in a sense that in healthcare the bar is so low that even anything incremental will seem like a big achievement.
oh,
Because in terms of let us say digitization of healthcare, in terms of understanding of basically a single customer centric health record, we are still not there yet, and there's tremendous opportunity, a tremendous opportunity across all the spaces, across payer, across provider, across pharma. So if we're able to zero in on that, and digital is a big thing here. How, see, everyone is saying digital, but how we use the digital space and how we use it to the customer's benefit and our benefit is ultimately what will drive the company's growth.
yeah, it's a great point actually. The cost of healthcare, especially given the, I mean, you can't compare dollar to dollar with other countries, but given the affordability of the Indian public at large, the cost of healthcare is fairly high. Large
Yes,
number of people actually move to poverty, the push to below poverty just because of the some extreme health incidents in their lives. So,
absolutely.
Where do you see opportunities today? Is it in making healthcare accessible, affordable? Where are the opportunities today? Is it in innovation in clinical space or the pharma space? You said there are innovations in every there are obviously innovations
Yes,
everywhere
yes,
possible. But
yes.
if you could kind of give a sense of your perspective.
Yeah, uh, you are absolutely right. I think affordable healthcare, looking at the size of our country and essentially the population dynamics, affordable healthcare is actually a very, very strong area in which we can, I think, companies, the startups are contributing and can would be able to contribute, right? And it can be for as low as 10 rupees a month. So, for example, I can take a system implemented about 14 years back. It was called Arogyashri. Essentially, it was about ensuring the entire below the poverty line population for a small amount of 5 rupees a month. Now it is in a lot of states are using it. I think about 12 states in India are using it in various forms. But essentially, the premise being that no one should be denied healthcare even for the most complex of surgeries. So if you pay 5 rupees a month, or if the government pays 5 rupees a month, right, it means that that person can go for a heart surgery or a cancer surgery within a certain limit, right? And it is working. That's one thing which can definitely be there. The second thing is essentially reaching out to the remotest corners of India, right? I'm not sure whether you're aware, Andhra Pradesh has actually privatized a lot of the primary health centers. They have contracted, there's also been done in Uttar Pradesh. They have contracted these centers out, so where on an average 160 to 200 people come every day to get treated. The video consultation is done. It is not a physical doctor being there. There's only a nurse come compounder, but the actual video, so it is, so remote healthcare is possible, diagnostics is possible. So there are currently about 300 centers running in Andhra Pradesh, and I think about 40 centers running. There are other states also. So this is something which is actually life transforming, because these people did not have access to any kind of healthcare. And what you can do is, if you come up with a solution for that, right, and ensure that, for example, the company which is in the business of doing that, right, that company is quite profitable. So and this started about I would say 7 years back, and they turned profitable in 3 years. So today, yeah. So
Really?
today that
Wow.
company, yeah, exactly.
Okay, awesome.
So yeah, so it means that the government is also, it's so a lot of people blame the government, saying the governments are not ready. The governments are ready. Quite a few governments are doing it. So it is only you who take that. So that is in the public health space. Now, if you come to the provider space, essentially the innovation lies in terms of, for example, a very simple thing like, and this is one of the most basic things, but one of the most neglected things. The customer, the EMR, electronic medical record. It has been around for ages, but not many companies implement it in toto. So, for example, if I have a unique reference ID, and the doctor should be able to scroll the moment I go to a hospital and say, okay, this guy came for something, right? What are the previous records like? What do the previous records look like? Instead of that, we still go with, we shuffle from one hospital to another. So it should be seamless. That is another thing and that will cut down a lot of time. So what most hospitals are and providers are realizing is that the more time the doctor is able to spend on actually treating the patient, and rather than going through the records, I think the more revenue generating it is. It's a benefit both for the hospital as well as for the customer.
The
That's
patients.
the record is a big thing. And what do you do out of that? Has the condition deteriorated or has it improved? So all this should be able to be done through the record. Okay, this is being done in bits and pieces today. So anything which centers around, again, customer centricity, the electronic medical record is definitely there. Coming to pharma companies, it has already been done, and although we have not started in India. For example, about 11 years back, at the NHS in UK was testing out something on HRT, hormone replacement therapy for women. They awarded the contract to Novartis, which was a Swiss company, as opposed to GSK, simply because Novartis had done a targeted trial and a database validation, which said that only a particular segment would benefit from that, and hence they would do a targeted thing rather than GSK, which adopted a full-fledged approach. So, which meant that they had already done the slice and dice on the data, saying that women over 55 of a certain ethnicity, okay, prone to certain problems, were more likely to benefit. This is where pharma companies will also benefit. So for the pharma companies, it's a win-win. For the customer, it's a win-win. So we know that it will work in some cases, and most clinical trials, for example, cover up to a certain point, but they do not. Still, there is an element of uncertainty. They're saying it may work, it may not work. But what actually the analytics does is take you further towards that. Some things like, for example, like pharmacometrics, which is a further analysis of pharma data plus statistical data.
That's fascinating, actually. In fact, there's a lot of innovation happening in the devices space also to reduce the need for the treatment completely, or reduce, right? Like I think we talked about nano health, and there are a lot of other innovation happening in the devices space to predict the disease early, so that you can reduce the need for serious intervention. So there's a lot of work happening in using technology, not only in anticipating the disease, but also taking it out of the hospitals into the home care. So, so there is a lot of innovation happening in that space also. So do you see opportunities like that emerging?
Absolutely. So quite a few things are happening in that space. From the most basic things like a Bluetooth stethoscope, right, to remote ECG monitoring devices, which is, so for example, I have doctors, because I was one of the first to actually have a remote ECG come BP come pulse monitoring about 3 years back. I was testing it out for them, and I had actually doctors calling me, my gastro calling me one day and saying that, can you lend it to me? I need to check my ECG. So today you need not go through the full thing of course ECG is very fast in the hospital, but if you need, a doctor needs to do something urgently, and if you're not able to, essentially with regard to accessibility, you can get the ECG out. It can be a 6-point ECG, it can be a 9-point ECG, it can be a 12-point ECG. So definitely, yes, there is a lot of things. In terms of integration of devices, for example, if you want to do an angio, you can see the angio happening in front of your eyes. The cardiologist gives it to you on a CD, and you can actually see what's happening there. And the same thing can be transmitted, for example, if you want to go for a second opinion, or if somebody else needs to see it. So what it means is that it can be remote. So a lot of things. So one is in terms of actual physical presence, which means that you prevent overcrowding of hospitals. 2, it enables remote diagnostics. 3, it also helps save lives, because the sooner you treat, the better it is. So in all kinds of devices, there is definitely an opportunity. Having said that, there is also, for example, a certain issue there in terms of things, specific protocols being there. For example, DICOM is being used for specific health things, and you have to have something which talks to DICOM. So specific software. So there is an opportunity there also. What enables, for example, if I can devise a software which talks to DICOM and just puts it to me as a normal 3D image, which basically tells me where the blockage in my heart is, that will be a big seller.
Wow, thanks, Shiva. I think that is very insightful. Your range of experience and understanding and knowledge is absolutely phenomenal. Thank you.
There's one more thing that I would like to point out.
Sure,
and this is being done currently. For example, in orthopedics, a lot of doctors, and I think this is a company, a small startup that we are working with, which essentially, for example, it gives a 3D view for an orthopedician and tells you what would be the best solution, because X-rays can only tell you so much, right? So this, based on what it does, is essentially it takes data from various orthopedic surgeons that goes into a central database. So if you, for example, if you want to do an ankle, let's say a rod through the ankle, right? Many older people are prone to that. It will tell you that this doctor has done this, it has succeeded. This doctor has done this, it has not succeeded. So you know your chances for failure or success based on the previous experience. So then this is where doctors are collaborating on a common platform today. And that is also one of the very exciting things which is coming up. And we hope that this also is, for example, used by other specialists. We have started with orthopedics. We hope that this goes, because otherwise these things are usually discussed in a seminar. It is not done in a common database. So what we are actually doing is putting the experience in a database and then utilizing that database and using AI on that to say, okay, this has worked, this is not.
No, absolutely fascinating. In fact, the whole, there's been so much of community building around diseases. If doctors also participate, patients also participate, and they share their experiences. and that can actually help patients and both doctors in improving the treatment and interventions. I think that's a fantastic way forward. Collaborating and reducing the cost, improving the success rate. Yeah, absolutely. And if startups can actually make a difference in the lives of Indians, reducing cost and improving their livelihood, absolutely, absolutely great. Thank you, Shiva. I'm really excited about the cohort.
I would
Really
like to
looking
add
forward
one
to
more
that.
thing. I'd like to add one more thing here. For any startup, I think a couple of things. One is be frugal,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I think
good point.
that is be frugal. Two, you should not have an ego. You should be, as I mentioned, you have to pivot. Ultimately, customer is king, right? Three, uh, understand the fact that there are, for example, if you are building a tech solution, you have to pay the tech team, which means that taking the risk and reward should be proportionate. So you should be able to take that leap of faith and make sure that you are invested in the company, you take a higher risk, right? But at the same time, make sure that the team is taken care of. Because in today's environment, I think building the platform, you need the tech team.
Absolutely, absolutely fair. And that's a backbone of the startups these days, right? You need to have very
Absolutely.
strong. Absolutely. Those are very wonderful thoughts, being frugal. Absolutely. Taking the risk, you reward yourself through the equity and
Absolutely.
take care of the team, and build that culture. Build that
Yeah.
culture which is inclusive and people can talk about, what they believe are the customer's issues so that you can, understand the issues ahead of time and pivot accordingly. Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely. Okay, thank you, Shiva. And that was really nice. And really looking forward to the healthcare group of startups. One of my areas where I personally believe, as IIT, I am kind of, we're really privileged, right? Should be able to give back to the society and help reduce the cost of
Absolutely.
healthcare.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, take
Thank
care,
you.
Shiva. Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Rajguru.
Bye.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye.
Hi, I'm Rajbir. Welcome to Conversations with Mentors. We are mentors from IIT Delhi and I'm Bangalore. I4 Mentors Foundation. We are a not for profit. We are starting a cohort soon, and these are conversations with cohort leaders.